Hello, I'm Charlie, and good afternoon, and welcome to your coronavirus update. Now, at the moment, Britain has got the second highest death toll in the world. As of this afternoon, 33,614 civilians have sadly lost their lives to coronavirus. That's an increase of 494 fatalities. And yes, we are going to remember all these people that died. One of them is a family member, and we will lose many more loved ones before our time. The biggest news of the week has been Prime Minister's questions. Boris Johnston criticised by the leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer, for misleading the House about the number of excess deaths in care homes. Now, there was about 10,000 unexplained deaths in care homes, and care homes have been at the forefront of this crisis. Around 40% of deaths in the UK from COVID-19 have been in care homes. Keir Starmer said on the 12th of March, care homes didn't have any advice about the number of people that had been infected. And anybody that had been transferred from a hospital to a care home was at risk of being infected. And care home staff were not told exactly how they're going to be safe. Is there a risk for them? Will they get this? And that saw a spike in the number of cases in care homes. The Prime Minister said, played down the idea, but Keir Starmer really took Boris Johnson apart at yesterday's Prime Minister's questions. And I had to say, Boris Johnson's going to get into a bit of trouble with this. Keir Starmer acting constructively to the government. That was a huge criticism from yesterday's parliamentary proceedings. Also, we had some news from today about the number of people on public transport. Oh my God. Public transport has been jam-packed. I have never seen scenes like this when Britain went back to work yesterday. This was the worst scenes I've seen since the 24th of March, when the Prime Minister ordered a nationwide lockdown. And yeah, people going back to work that can work from home, and the tubes were absolutely packed. One London commuter described it as an absolute horrifying experience. Literally, claustrophobia in the carriages, social distancing on those trains. There are several people packed 10 feet deep. Some of them packed 10 deep in carriages, literally standing shoulder to shoulder. Social distance is simply unattainable. And yeah, simply, this was heartbreaking. And none of them, not even hardly any of them, were wearing face masks or a non-medical facial covering, which should be mandatory on public transport, because some of those people could go on there and be symptomatic. So it is just crazy. And then also in London on public especially on the buses, we saw an AEC route master the other day packed with passengers. Grant Shapps said only 1 in 10 can use public transport. Well, at the moment, many people simply are using it. And the Prime Minister's address on Sunday, that really caused confusion. People who are actively encouraged to go back to work should go back to work. For example, construction and manufacturing industries. But literally, more people want to go back to work, and it's causing chaos on our public transport services. And yet, somehow, the government didn't release any of these documents till Tuesday, explaining how safety would be how people should be kept safe on public transport with COVID secure guidelines. And to see scenes like that again this morning at Waterloo Station and on the Jubilee line as well at Canning Town Station, it was ridiculous. It was extremely packed. I honestly don't know why it's so busy. No wonder why the virus is circulating so rapidly in the air. It is extremely horrible. Really is a horrible epidemic, this. So that was public transport. And again, the Prime Minister's speech address on Sunday, I was left confused. There was literally a lack of clarity and consensus. The roadmap was all right that he set out, but what he didn't set out that I found was interesting was people going back to work. Some people had no idea, and then the roads were jam-packed. I see Vauxhall Astras, Minis, Ford Fiestas out on the road for people going back to work, and yet there's traffic jams in the middle of central London. People going back to work. Like, I mean, it is beyond a joke. No wonder why people are getting this. And people not wearing face masks as well. Really is a truly disastrous scene. And I must admit, the Prime Minister has gone through a lot himself. He did test positive for COVID-19, for coronavirus, at the end of March. So really, his approach has sort of changed a little bit. But what he said on Wednesday, even on Sunday and Wednesday, not presenting his details to the House and presenting an address when not really anything was finalised, caused so much confusion. And literally, this could cause a potential second wave. The second spike, which will overwhelm our National Health Service. Something that would be absolutely disastrous. And the next thing that a lot of people are talking to me about is the lockdown restrictions. Oh my God. There was a lot of confusion. On Monday, Dominic Raab turned round on many of these on Good Morning Britain and also on BBC Breakfast to say that people can meet up in parks more than you can meet a friend outside. However, though, he said them restrictions would not be in till Wednesday. So there was even more confusion. Got Dominic Raab causing abundance of confusion, and the Prime Minister saying that people can't meet up. I mean, let alone that was particularly poor leadership from Dominic Raab. I can't believe what is going on with government. And then that takes us on to quarantining people. Now, I'm a huge Formula 1 fan, and I really want the British Grand Prix to go ahead this year at Silverstone in July. But I can see that being a tough ask. The UK will now quarantine anyone that comes into this country for 2 weeks to control the spread of COVID-19. But they should have done this significantly earlier. Countries like Spain, France, America, bringing in their quarantine restrictions significantly earlier than us. We're not even done that yet. And what I don't like is they've made France exempt from it, which I think is a bit of a farce, really. And yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, how are you going to get Formula 1 drivers over here when they've got a quarantine for 2 weeks? They're not allowed out on the premises. Some drivers live over here, but I'm not talking about drivers who live over there. Most people, like Paul de Resta, some British people live in Monaco, for God's sake. They've got to get from Monaco to here, which means the quarantine. So it's going to be a bit of an ask. And then you've got to think how the team's going to do social distancing in the garages. McLaren, at the last race in Australia, many of the 3 team members tested positive. So yeah, in a way, this is going to be awkward. And these travel restrictions that the government brought in, I think they've done the right thing. But the thing was, we had 18.3 million people coming into the UK over the past few months. And literally, none of them were temperature checked. It was ridiculous. Some of these people had come in with coronavirus. Absolutely poor. I don't know what has gone on with government, and there's clearly problems arising. Then we have the next problem we have, and this is a political scandal here. We have seen over the weekend about 325 illegal migrants coming into the UK from Calais into Dover. No social distancing at all. There was one boat carrying about 50 migrants. One border vessel, a dinghy, carrying 50 illegal migrants. And I bet some of them had COVID-19 symptoms. Some of these migrants were showing clear symptoms of COVID-19, shouldn't have even been allowed in the country, and it was just a horrible experience. And they're the hunting ground for where these people go. I talk a lot about migrants a lot, but this is worse now. This scandal has been going on for years, but it's worse now than it ever was. Because of this pandemic, people are coming in from other countries that they don't even know. They've not even been tested. So, in a way, I think this is a huge scandal and we really need to address it. Finally, and I'm going to be talking, this is my final thing I'm going to be mentioning, and that is face masks. Britain need to be wearing face masks compulsory in the UK. The government have advised people to wear a non-medical facial covering when you are in close proximity with other people, where social distancing is very hardly difficult to maintain. For example, going in shops, in closed spaces like shops, and also on public transport. As I said earlier, people should have been wearing face masks on public transport. But because the number of people that have died from this is now over 33,000, the government have got to make this compulsory soon. I spoke to one of my friends the other day who said that face masks should be compulsory because it will slow down the spread of COVID-19. It won't necessarily protect you, but it will protect others from you, inhaling those droplets. And it's even worse for people who are in taxis, people that are for example, bus drivers, taxi drivers, who are the most at risk. There was about 40 TfL staff that have died from this. It is horrible. This virus is killing bus drivers, taxi drivers, anybody. Our key workers are falling to this. And yes, face masks need to be worn in this country. I think with the police now not able to enforce a 2 metre social distancing, I think the police have got to get more stricter with face masks. If nobody is wearing a face mask, they should not be outside. I know I'm saying that, and some people might think what I'm saying is not exactly going to be true, but this pandemic is getting a lot worse. Every country is now seeing lots of cases. We have eased our lockdown here in this country, but the number of cases is still high. It's still in the 3,000s. So I'm very concerned of a second peak, a second spike, which will overwhelm the NHS. This COVID alert level system will help us massively to determine what stage we are at, but I want to make it clear. I want the government to get a grip on this crisis because literally at the moment, everything is a complete mess. Our care homes need more adequate supply of PPE. They also need to be equating for as well, making sure that our care homes are kept in good condition. The government have set out an extra £6 billion in support for our care homes. And clearly, our care homes are at the forefront of this crisis now. I know hospital admissions are falling, but care homes aren't. They are expanding. And this is going to be the talk of the news for the next few days. And also how people are going to get back to work safely. Because a lot of people are struggling. And as Keir Starmer said the other day on Monday and on Wednesday in Prime Minister's Questions and in the House of Commons, people are not going to feel safe going back to work yet. How are people going to go back to work when there's a lack of clarity? All of that is what I think is going to put Boris Johnson under a lot of pressure. He's got to deliver this crisis. And at the moment, I'm afraid, this could be a real... If Boris Johnson fails to deliver within this crisis, I think he will lose his job as Prime Minister. I'm not being rude. If Britain gets this response so wrong and there is a second wave, I think Boris Johnson might be might have to resign. Because I think the leadership in this country has been absolutely poor. It has been omni-shambles. Lots of things have gone wrong. They've not had a lack of testing, a lack of PPE, and it is causing riots everywhere. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned.